You can be brilliant at what you do. The calm one in the room, the one who keeps things moving, the one people rely on when everything feels messy, and still not be seen for it. This episode is for anyone who has ever thought, I know I'm good at what I do, but I don't think people see it that way yet. We're going to talk about how to recalibrate how you're seen at work, quietly, strategically, and in your own tone of voice. Because you don't need to be louder to be noticed. You just need to make your good work easier to recognize and harder to forget. Before we dive in, if you want to make a meaningful difference in how you're perceived at work, think of that subscribe button as your first small act of change. Plus, it helps more people discover Awfully Quiet and the work we're doing to rebrand what it means to be quiet. Now, if you've ever been called shy, reserved, or awfully quiet at work, it's all too easy to start believing that's a weakness, something that's wrong with you. The first thing I want to land with you is this. Quiet gets a bad rap because it's different from the loud, outgoing, extroverted types. But it's not less than. It is not powerful. It just hasn't had good PR. And the first person who needs to realize that is you. So this first step is all about auditing your quiet and gaining a deeper understanding of how it serves you. Ask yourself, what about my quiet feels powerful? And what about it feels like it's holding me back? Then take a step back and look at how, without any context, without knowing you, your quiet might be perceived by others in the workplace. Is how people see you at work different from how you actually see yourself? A powerful journaling prompt here is, what parts of my quiet work for me and which parts keep me invisible? Or if you want to go deeper, is my quiet seen as confidence or as hesitation, as composure or as distance, as thoughtfulness or as holding back? Start paying attention to the stories people might be telling themselves when you're quiet, and the stories you actually want them to tell. Once you can articulate that gap, you've set the foundation for the steps that come next. Step 2 is define your narrative. Now that you've looked at the gap between who you really are and how your quiet is perceived at work, it's time to close that gap, to redefine how you're seen so it actually reflects what you bring to the table and where you want to go. To do that, you need to shape your career story. Ask yourself, which experiences have shaped how I think, lead, or solve problems? What is my unique approach to the work I do? How do I build trust, clarity, and momentum in a way that's different from others? Because that right there is your narrative. That is the story people remember when they talk about you in rooms you're not even in. This is where my quiet flex framework comes in. It helps you capture your story, spot the patterns in how you show up, and shape a narrative that actually fits who you are. Think of it like building a one-page snapshot of your quiet advantage, the way you lead, solve problems, and make things move. By the end of it, you'll have a clear game plan that helps you articulate 3 things: who you are, what you do exceptionally well, and where you're headed next. From there, you can build your own personal narrative, your quiet PR plan, to make sure the way people perceive you at work finally matches who you really are. Step number 3 is position yourself. This one builds directly on the narrative work you just did, because now it's about translating that story into something people actually remember you for. Every brand has a tagline, something they stand for and are known for. And honestly, so should you. Think of it as your personal brand line, a short sentence that helps people understand how you work and what they can count on you for. For example, I bring calm direction when things get messy, or I make complexity simple enough for everyone to act on. Now, this isn't something you need to say out loud word for word. It's more like your internal compass, the quiet reminder that guides you, how you introduce yourself, how you make decisions, and how you show up when you're put on the spot. If you're not sure where to start, ask yourself this: when do I make things better without even trying? That moment, that pattern, is the start of your positioning line. I know it can feel a little cringy to write something like this, but it's not about sounding polished. It's about owning what you naturally bring to the table before anyone else tries to define it for you. In Quiet Flex, I walk you through exactly how to build your positioning line in your own tone, in a way that feels grounded, not performative. So give it a try. And if you want to share yours, you can send it to me at Awfully Quiet Podcast or drop it in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Step number 4 is show your work. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably heard this one before. You need to be more visible. And I struggled with that. Because every time I tried to make myself more visible for visibility's sake, it backfired. It felt forced, unnatural, and honestly, it made me question whether I even have what it takes. So this step isn't about putting yourself in the spotlight. It's about putting your work in the spotlight. It's about making what you do so clear, so valuable, so shareable that people can't overlook it, even if you're not shouting about it. Visibility in that sense is about presentation. It's about putting your work in the best light possible, making it digestible, findable, and easy to talk about. Here's an example. If you're working on long PowerPoint decks or reports, turn them into a simple, beautifully structured one-pager that lands the point. That one-pager might not replace the full document, but it becomes something people actually read and, more importantly, share. It's a service to your peers and senior leaders who don't always have the time to sift through the full detail. And it's a service to your own work, which might otherwise be skimmed, misunderstood, or lost in the noise. If you're the one leading this kind of work, designing for traction is your ultimate quiet advantage, because when your work speaks clearly for itself, you don't have to. Step 5 is reframe your voice. Now, you don't need a louder voice. You need intentional language. The words you choose are part of your brand. They shape how people perceive you, even when you say less. And yes, I get it. Someone who's outspoken, charismatic, maybe even a little loud, can be magnetic. It clearly works for some people. But for you and me, impactful communication doesn't come from volume. It comes from choosing words that land. It's about shifting from language that sounds apologetic or small to language that is clear, grounded, and respectful. I call that quiet confidence, the audacity to do things that don't look confident on the surface, like pausing before you speak, embracing a little awkward silence, and then coming back with something so smart and sharp that it feels like strategy. If you've been here for a while or follow Subtle series, you know I'm obsessed with this idea of using language as your quiet advantage. My favorite script for reframing your voice is to move from something passive to something active. For example, instead of saying, I don't know if this makes sense, but say, here's what I'm seeing. Quiet confidence starts with language like, here's what I know to be true, or here's what I can say right now. It's a frame that gives you a way in, even if you're not 100% sure of your answer yet. And please retire phrases that shrink your space like, I just wanted to say, or sorry to jump in, but can I quickly add, or this will be short. You don't have to soften your presence to earn it. Language is your most untapped leadership skill. It's how quiet people make power unmistakable. So stop trying to make your voice louder and start focusing on making your words count. Step number 6 is one that'll probably take you just a little bit out of your comfort zone. It's about building a rhythm to your visibility. At the end of the day, yes, it is a form of self-promotion. But you know me, I am all about doing it subtly. It's not shouting through a megaphone. It's dropping breadcrumbs intentionally. And the good news is, you already have those breadcrumbs in your hand. If you've been following along, you know you have your narrative, the gap you want to close between who you are and how you're perceived, your positioning, and your voice, your language. Now it's about bringing rhythm and repetition to all of that, so it becomes second nature. Something you do, not something you have to remember to do. Think of it as your quiet PR loop. Monthly, you want to share small updates or learnings, something you've noticed, refined, or figured out. Quarterly, you want to reflect on your progress. What has worked? What's changed? what you want to amplify. And yearly, you want to reframe your story and direction, update how you talk about yourself, your work, and where you're headed next. It's very much the steps that you've just gone through. It's not performative. It's just about letting people catch up to the impact you're already having. And if you want a little help getting started, I actually built a free cheat sheet to subtle self-promotion, a minimal Notion space you can keep open as a tab while you work. It gives you a checklist for what to do monthly, quarterly, and yearly, so you can keep your quiet visibility consistent without it feeling like a chore. Now, the final step, and maybe the most important one, is protect your energy. Honestly, I might even move this up the list in the future because your quiet is your creative space. But if you're anything like me, that brilliance doesn't switch on at the push of a button. It needs space, it needs fuel, it needs to be protected. This 7-step framework was designed with your personality in mind, but it does ask you to do things differently, to reframe, to rethink, to stretch yourself a little beyond what's comfortable. Not in a way that burns you out, but in a way that grows you. And growth takes energy. So you need to build a system that supports you to refuel, recharge, and ground yourself when the world moves too fast. For me, and this is something I'm still working on, that looks like carving out time with myself, meeting myself. Because honestly, that's often the most important meeting of the day. Sitting with your thoughts, choosing what's helpful and what's not, listening, really listening to what you need. It's a skill, it's a habit. And honestly, it's one of the biggest predictors of long-term growth, not just for introspective people, but for anyone. So you can think of this as step 0, the one that runs through all the others, because sometimes when you get stuck, maybe at step 4, when showing your work suddenly feels scary or forced, it's not because you're missing a skill, it's because you're running on empty or replaying an old story that doesn't serve you anymore. And that's when you come back here to step 7, to protecting your energy, to spending time with yourself so you can lead, speak, and show up from a grounded space again. And that's it. The 7 steps to quietly rebrand yourself at work. If this episode resonated, please take a second to rate it 5 stars on Spotify. It's my favorite quiet seal of it working and resonating. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe because more deep dives are coming and every one of them helps reframe how you're seen quietly. You've also heard me reference a few of my favorite resources, Quiet Flex, the Subtle Scripts Pack, and the Self-Promo Cheat Sheet. You'll find all of them linked in the description below. What I want to leave you with is quiet doesn't need fixing. It just needs better PR. And that's what we're here to do. See you next time.